we have seen a huge growth over the last decade in electronic manufacturing.
The only way to take our fair share from the global GDP is by building the global champions from India.
We have enough in the country. We are the third largest automotive producer.
India's time has come.
This is a very important, very important subject. But pardon me, you named me moderator. So I that's very much antithesis to my personality. I'll be provocative, right? Mostly respectful, and I might pull your leg once in a while, but fortunately all of them are used to my idiosyncrasies. So please pardon me if I transgress my usual idiosyncrasies. So innovation, self-reliance, growth. I think the panel we have is quite extraordinary. From a person who's produced more than 1 billion mobile phones. That's Josh sitting there, right? To a serial entrepreneur who's always scored bullseye, and of the philosopher of the industry, Hari Om ji. Rahul Sharma, who's had a roller coaster ride, literally. Very interesting roller coaster ride. Micromax, #1 brand, then hitting the bottom, and now what is in store from him. It'll be very interesting to know that. But it looks very exciting. And Pankaj representing the already a champion, I think it's a global champion, the Motherson group, with the extraordinary footprint across the world, and we are fortunate to have them a part of electronics now. So this is a great journey which they've had. Let me start with Josh. Josh, you have been in global companies all your life, right? And this is, are you comfortable being in this outfit, which is the domestic, this outfit, the panel? Because your DNA has been global companies, GVCs. So how has been this transition? Do you get confidence that the Indian companies, what you see of them now, being an insider now, that can they make it?
Absolutely. I think thanks Pankaj for this opportunity to share my thoughts. See, I think I feel first of all India's time has come, and I think that's the important part. And along with that, global value chains are looking at India as a great long-term bet, which I think is encouraging for all. Now, it is time for domestic companies across the full value stream, be it lead firms, brands, be it tier ones, which do ODM work, EMS work, component supply chain, equipment vendors, the full stack. I think it's important. And I decided about 20 years ago to come back to India. And you're one of the few people who are there welcoming me back to India. And I think since it's India's time, I think it's great to be a part of an Indian outfit, Zetwerk. And we are able to very quickly sort of look at opportunities which are coming in across the value chain in ESDM. I'll say up and down the value chain. And so having the background in global value chains before Nokia and my former employer, being able to quickly bring those systems into play here. And I think we can talk about this a little later. The importance now for India, the expectations on India is to be world class. almost immediately. So some countries had time, we don't. I think the opportunities which are being presented to us, it's great to go from 0 to 1. We have at least 2 entrepreneurs here who have done that 0 to 1 journey many times. It's tough, but then the bigger journey is from 1 to 10 and the 10 to 100. And there you need these global systems, processes, and we'll talk about that a little later. So excited to be here.
I'll leave a thought with you before I go to Hariji, that your current legacy is that you build 2 big ecosystems and 1 billion phones. After a decade, what would you like your legacy number 2 to be? But don't answer it now. I'll leave you to mull over it, because it's not easy to think the next decade so quickly. Hariji, ICs, which I famously call the Indian champions, we have seen a huge growth over the last decade in electronic manufacturing, from 30 billion odd to about 135 billion. And we are going to 500 billion is the target given by the Prime Minister to the industry. So what will this growth be comprised of? In this growth of the last decade, have Indian companies participated enough? What does the future look like for the Indian companies? Will it be the new kids in the block, like the companies who've just entered, or the old groups like the Tatas, because Tata Electronics is looking like a champion now. So what will be the composition be of this? You have a prophetic eye, that's what everybody says. So when you peer into the future, how does it appear?
So, thank you. Thank you very much. I think before I talk about the future, it is very important for us to look at where we are and why we are where we are. So, despite being, the largest arable land of the world, second largest, I will say 10% less than US, and the best demographics, we are still, far away from being at least even average economy of the world. So for example, we are 18% people, but surviving on a mere 3.5% of the GDP. So it means we have not done a good job. And once we are in this situation, so whether it is our healthcare, education, giving opportunities to hardworking people, so on and so forth, and even militarily, especially in this geopolitical context, we are not adequately ready. So this is a fact. But why this situation is there? It is because we have not been able to build globally competitive skills to take the fair share of Indians from the global GDP, which is 96.5%, which is out of India. We must take our fair share. And the only way to take our fair share from the global GDP is by building the global champions from India. There is no other way. Why a country A is rich and developed is because they have great champion companies. There is no other reason why a country A is great and the other country is still a developing or a not so great country. So therefore, it is highly critical for us to understand that the way forward can only be through the Indian champions who are able to acquire skills and technology for the country and create value for our citizens and also for the country, so that no outside of the external country can come and bully us in any manner. So internally also, it has to be great. And if you ask me, what is the opportunity? This country, we are sitting at so many people at such a lower per capita income. The moment we are going to give them skills our output is going to be the most competitive in the world. And the scale and skill is the key for us to provide. And there are certain processes and policies with which we can do that. But once we do that, the future for the champions, I see Tata Electronics or Tata or Reliance and all these companies are there. However, we need to have at least 125 large Fortune 500 companies from India, and that cannot be done by only a Tata or a Birla or a Reliance alone. We need to have very large number of companies emerging by giving them the right policies so that we are able to acquire the desired skill and take the fair share from the global world. Thank you.
Oh, that was wonderful, but you've eaten up a lot of my future questions also. So it's okay. So Rahul, tell us something about your roller coaster ride, number one. And what does it signify for India's policymakers? That, we had Indian champions. Micromax was clearly an Indian champion, a big Indian champion, chasing the market leader, hot on the heels of the market leader. So, I'm sure there's like Clark Gable said, tomorrow's another day. That what does the future hold? But what are the lessons of the last decade, which you would like to point out for the policymakers? What India should not do?
So, thank you, Pankaj, for reminding of my roller coaster ride. See, last decade has been, very, very interesting for all of us actually. From where all of us we began and how things panned out. So, as you rightly said, that Micromax, Lava, all the other Indian brands, we were so-called ruling the roost out in the country, doing quite well. The total share of the mobile phone segment with the Indian players was close to around 50%, which today is completely abysmal. Absolutely, you can say we are nowhere. But of course, all the lessons are there in this. But the journey was going strong. Everything was going, fantastic, phenomenal. But somehow, as we call the global supply chain invasion happened, and in that, what happened was that the supply chain, which should have come to our country, never came, was in other country, and from there it starts. All of the it's not only Micromax. All of the brands started feeling the heat, and the brands from the other country came in, and suddenly the tide started changing. So lesson in that is, so this is only half part of the story. Of course, I will just cover it up, but in that I think if you see today the market share is completely changed. But the lesson number one in that is that in terms of the government policies, I think the way our automotive industry flourished completely out here, we put a lot of barriers and also protected our Indian companies at that time, which I think was missing initially for our electronic sector. So anybody could come from outside, set up a shop, and then can do whatever they wanted to do. So so I think that was one factor which played out. Second, in terms of establishing the supply chains out here in the country, I think that is one opportunity which, as a country, we missed. So because see, only one or two companies can't do that. As a country, we missed that, which I think after all the PLI policies and everything have now started coming in. So after that, now the government has taken actions. PLI policies have come in. Things have started working well. So so Micromax 2.0 now is at that time when we were at peak, we were having one large factory. Now Micromax 2.0 we have, because of all the PLI policies and all, now we have 4 large factories out here in India. We are part of the PLI policy. We are not only one, but for 3 PLI policies. We have a joint venture with one of the largest ODM of smartphones in the world. So as of now, things are going great. आपने fantastic बोला, but sir यहाँ पे भी I think बॉस देखो ऐसा
I
ही
think
सारे
you
बैठे
need
हैं, सबको ना
you
clapping
need to
चाहिए
clap
होती
for
है.
Micromax.
Yeah.
Yes, Micromax 2.0.
Just kidding. So I think as the new policies have come in, so things have started changing, for the country. And as Hariji pointed out that as now as a country with so much of, let's say, 18% of population, but with 3.4% GDP, I think there is a lot of room for us to play. But also so people say next decade is India, which is fine, but we also have to see that time is running out, so we have to implement those policy quickly.
Rahul is such a nice guy. He reminds me of the films of the 50s when the daughter-in-law used to say "wo" for the husband and not name him. He was saying other country, other country. He's such a nice guy. I think he deserves to be applauded for that. A typical Indian, जो कि I won't call them enemies, but वो किसी का नाम नहीं ले सकते. They are, we are the nice guys. That's why the other country, sometimes they call us the sheep.
But we also have to learn from them. See, what they have done is phenomenal. So we have to learn from them. And
Absolutely, absolutely. Pankaj, other than the panel, I'd like you to spend 2-3 minutes to tell everybody about the journey of Motherson. You can't do that, okay? So I think that is the answer in itself. That what is the culture of this company and how they have built such a phenomenal global presence. Okay, let's come to electronics. There is a news that India started exporting mechanics to China. Is that true? Because most people don't believe it.
I don't know whether it's true or not.
Okay. So that's the second part of this characteristic, this culture that, the keeping a low profile. But this is true, everybody, that we have now started exporting mechanics to China. How do you see from the mechanical, non-electronic part of the electronic supply chain, how do you see India's competencies and capabilities? And at what scale do you think India will be able to compete with the world and build champion companies?
I think that's a very valid question, and I think one thing what I'm seeing is after attending a couple of conferences as well, electronics industry trying to look at themselves as a very niche and separate industry. At the end of the day, when you talk about the mechanics, is all metal, plastic. At the end of the day, and one of the key thing what we need to look at is how do we leverage what we have in the country. We have enough in the country. We are the third largest automotive producer, so we know how to do mechanics. But under the umbrella of electronics, we make it a little bit complicated. I just give you example of my own company. We have 400 plants around the world making all kind of processes, all kind of manufacturing, right from very precision connectors terminals to high precision aerospace components.
Did you hear that right? 400 plants. An Indian company having 400 plants. So India has a manufacturing culture, a manufacturing footprint,
Yes.
We are just not a services country. Please, Pankaj, go ahead,
So
sir.
I think, and for example, when you talk about precision connectors, terminals, we have completely backward integrated tool rooms. We mold the parts, make the parts. So I think that's the leverage can be done. And I give you 3-prong approach to do that. One is we can look at whatever viable part we can make, we can do it in our own plants. Second thing, I also talked about Unibuild, which is the venture which we have started in Motherson. We can also support any industry to do a complete turnkey project, right from constructing their plant, buying their capex, sourcing their material, setting up the supply chain, because that at the speed at which we want to grow as a country, we need to partner together, not like work in isolation. And there is a typical culture, we want to do everything on our own. That will not work, because the owner need to spend time in growth rather than getting into buying a machine and tracking where the machine is. That's the second thing we can do. The third thing we can do is we can be a complete supply chain solution partner to any company. They want to buy, they can run the plant, we can do supply chain. We can source material, etc. Because every company will not have the talent for every commodity to buy and source from different countries. If you want to source a machine from China, you need to have people there. sending somebody from India, sourcing there, it's not so always easy. So I think that kind of leverage we can provide, and Uni will provide a very good platform so that all these dots can be connected together. I think that's what I see is we have enough in the country. I would say we don't have a scarcity. We just need to put the dots together.
Fantastic. And now let's come to the next most important, what is haunting some people, exciting many people, the Trump factor. You know, my question is to all the panelists, that you think the Trump factor will trump us, pun intended, or it's a great opportunity? What is the future looking like? Will it shrink our economy and our exports, or will it be the greatest opportunity of this century? Rahul?
So this, nobody knows, even Trump doesn't know. Every day morning he comes up with something new. So how can...
Is there a method in the badness?
No, this is the first time in my life. Every night, 10 p.m. I first go on CNN.com, see what has he announced, and then sleep.
Aha, so he's watching CNN. So definitely then, there is a certain thought process which is coming in. Hariji, what is your feeling here?
So before talking about Trump, it is important for us to understand where the US is, where US stands. So US has been spending a lot in the economy and growing its economy for the last 50 years by printing dollars. And because of that, the deficit today, they have about $75 trillion. And the way things are lined up, they are going to have about $150 trillion of deficit. And imagine the kind of cost you have to pay just as interest. So it is a fundamental issue of policy being run in US for the last 50 years. And these fundamentals will make, they are going to come and haunt US. They have internal issues inside the United States, and they have external issues, in form of China emerging as the new world champion. And the only way as US they can deter or maybe make sure that China is not coming so fast so soon and surpass them, which will make sure that their dollar is also protected for some time rather than going through a sharp fall, is by making sure that the power of China, which is cost, that they can leverage through India, and we can leverage their technology. So it's a great opportunity for US to engage with China, engage with India, and similarly, it's a great opportunity for us to engage with them and together become a formidable force so that we are able to create a great win-win. However, as you talked about the Trump factor, so let us understand, as the way I understand, Trump is basically looking at, populist measures. And in these populist measures, and he's a deal maker. So when we see what kind of deal, when he's talking about tariff, I don't believe that he's going to put tariffs on all over the world. It is going to hurt their economy more than any other economy. So definitely over the next 2 years before the next elections of Senate and House are due, he's going to show some value coming into the US so that the internal issues of lack of distribution of wealth inside the country and the external issue of fighting with China, doesn't come and, beat them off. So somehow, Trump, while may look to be a very significant factor, but I will say that it is not. Finally, it is a very, the way the fundamentals are, he will just be a little bit here and there, but we have to work together as countries.
But the tariffs are real. The tariffs on China are now 45% on almost everything, 70% on semiconductors, 120% on automobiles. 20% on smartphones, laptops, hearable wearables. So this is real. It's not an illusion. And the tariffs are real on the rest of the world also. They are coming. So we have to craft our way forward, keeping this reality in mind. Yes, please.
So tariffs on China is absolutely right. But if you look at tariffs, despite being talking a lot about tariffs, you know, they have imposed tariff on Canadian steel. And Canadian steel is, you know, the US themselves have about 25% overcapacity for steel. And 6 to 7% they import from Canada. So they can get away by making very big, you know, fuss about it that we are going to, put tariff on your country. But in my mind, the real intention is to acquire the minerals of Canada. And similarly, they are looking at, you know, whether it is Greenland or whatever they are looking at, you know, how they are going to acquire the minerals and, you know, whether Panama, etc., etc. So it's a very different story. So more of, you know, for other countries, it is going to more of a, you know, either babki rather than actually putting in tariff.
I'll disagree with that because steel and aluminum is across the board. It's all in the entire world. There's a 25% tariff on the US for the entire world. So, yeah, because the plan is something else in his mind. There is a method in the madness. Josh, what is your feeling about this? The
I think,
Trump factor.
I mean, I don't want to directly comment on that, but I think you know, I've been lived in the U.S., went to school there, and you know, been a part of a few factories, building a few factories there, and I think over the years, you know, from early 90s, you know, you could see the decline of U.S. participation in the electronic supply chain. You know, but I think there is a resurgence in the supply chain there. You know, Zetwerk itself has you know, a few factories in the U.S. Where it makes sense, and but I think from an Indian context, the way I see it, it's a great opportunity because when the tariffs started 6-7 years ago, the global value chains went into short-term solutions. You know, tariff engineering would be the word people use. These were short-term solutions. They went to certain geographies which had a limited, you know, sort of offset of that risk, of the true risk which global value chains had. So, but coming from the industry like I have, diversification, risk mitigation is very, very important. And I think India provides a true long-term bet for global value chains who are really looking to de-risk their supply chains, enhance value in supply chains, and so on and so forth. So I think us as Indian champions, I think we should see this as an opportunity to enhance our capability and skill and be globally competitive, so that we are part of the long-term vision or the long-term what we call demand-supply network of global value chains.
Excellent. Pankaj, what is your feeling about this?
Maybe
From
I would say,
overall
yeah.
overall economy point of view, including automobile supply chain.
So I think these turbulence will keep going on and on. Like every decade, you will see some different situation coming in, and I think that's a biggest opportunity for companies to have a robust supply chain. Because I remember, like I used to work in GE at some point in time. Jack Welch said, "Don't predict the future, because you can't. To make yourself so fast that you can react to that." So I think worrying about those things will not help. I would say companies have to look at more in terms of a robust supply chain, not putting all the eggs in one basket. And I think sometimes people have been too much opportunistic, putting all the eggs into one basket, sourcing from one countries or one side of the world, and that hurts them the most. Once you have a balanced approach, I think you can survive. And that's what is happening around the world now, because something will happen somewhere else. Something canal stops, you know, you don't know what to do with the supply chain. So I think that's what is always the key, and that's what I would say the companies must do.
Very nice. Let's move on to innovation now. I mean, innovation is a very big subject. It's R&D, it's development, it's the transition from EMS to ODM and then to design and semiconductor design, etc. So again, I'll all the panelists. This time I'll start with Pankaj. Uh, what Pankaj is the short term, medium term, and long term appropriate strategy for India in this innovation R&D ecosystem? What should we be doing?
Okay, so I think first of all, we need to start from the application engineering, I would say, not the product engineering. Product engineering needs lot of expertise. It takes longer time. So, like for example, you talk about the mechanical system. Like we have design capability in terms of developing those parts, design those parts, structural stability, etc. Leverage those things first. So I think some part of that is under your control. Because if you start from completely build to print kind of a situation, that will not last. So start to take little by little in your control to make sure, and then you talk about real innovation. So I think our companies, lot of companies around in India are focusing more on build to print. So forget about innovation, they can't even think about it. So I think that's the first step they need to take. And again, don't start everything in-house. There are tons of design houses available in India, outside the world. Leverage them, build up that capability, and once you take one step, you find what the next step possible. Because without taking one step, you are always in a fog. So once you take the first step, I would say highly recommended that people should look for multiple design houses, and not just taking just technical collaboration, but design houses can really give you lot of insight, lot of headway. And once you do that thing, I think you will already find ideas for innovation. But grassroots innovation will take long time. I think that's what companies may not be ready to invest even for grassroots innovation. That's where the universities or some common pool of resources needs to start, because it takes decades. It doesn't happen overnight. Somebody start to design a chip tomorrow, it will not happen. So I think this is the two-prong approach, and industry needs to have something today. And for that, I would say this is the approach. I would say very pragmatic approach one can use.
Right. Josh, what was, if you can tell us, and I'll ask Hariji the same thing, the transition of China from a mass assembler of US goods to a deeply innovative society. What was that journey? Why did it happen? And people still don't believe it. But just for your information, China has 3,200 semiconductor product design companies, successful, 3,200. And that's the most cutting edge of innovation. Yeah, Josh, Hariji?
No, I think, the journey of China and India is going to be different. And I think we have to respect that. And I think China started with build to print services. And in a way, I don't think there's nothing bad to do build to print. I think let's do that well. I think there's still a lot of room for just build to print EMS services. I think there are a couple of things I would like to say. At that elemental stage, I think we need to focus on process excellence. You really need to get it right, because you're going to build the trust there, which is I think what China did, right? You build the trust slowly, build that quality, slowly there into the system. So you focus on process excellence, focus on engineering, process engineering, get your tooling right, get your equipment, parameters right, and just have the discipline, on the factory floors, in your governance systems to incentivize, encourage that. I think that's stage one. I think China did that very well, 90s, 2000s onwards. I think they did that, right? Now, moving to the next stage, where we say there could be the word we used to use in Nokia was joint R&D. So where we work with the platform chipset provider, use their reference design, and then you design a product. Now you can put that together, right? I think Pankaj was alluding to that, right? You work with an independent design house, you work with the reference design coming from a chipset provider, and you start to build your product, vertical up, right? And so, and then comes that whole NPD skill. So we have to really hone that skill on manufacturing process excellence to NPD skills, right? I think you have to build that. You've got to spend the time as a country, as a company. And the beauty is automotive industry has already done that. I think we've had, I'll say, at least 2 decades of serious work done in this area in automotive. Then, of course, comes product design, where we say either an end product design for an OEM, in-house design, or an ODM design. I think the ultimate achievement would be to do a white label design and offer it to the world. And it can be done. I can, at least in my experience the last 20 years in India, I think level 1 we have done. I've done personally myself, and our boys and girls have done extremely well there. Level 2 we have done a little bit, at least me personally. Level 3 we have attempted. I think probably Hariji has done more on level 3 than at least me. He can talk more about it. But I think we are on the journey. I think India is on the journey. It's going to be a different journey from China. It probably is not. We probably don't have the same time. The luxury is not going to be there. The expectations from global value chain is to go very quickly up there, and I think it's so there's some pressure. We just need to get our the best talent also to come to manufacturing companies instead of just the services companies today. Get our engineering folks. It's great to do Pythons, and whatever else they do in AI, ML, all that stuff. In fact, the first programming language I used to do as a robotics engineer was AML. It's an IBM robot programming language. So I think it's time to get these folks back, from the services to do this.
Right. Hariji, what is this? How does this transition, does it have a lesson for us from a mass assembler of US goods to one of the greatest innovative countries in the world? What happened and what we didn't do in the meantime?
So, let me first of all, share a quote of one of the greatest leaders of all time, I consider, Steve Jobs. He said, simple is harder than complex, but you have to work hard to make your thinking clean to make it simple. But once you get there, you can move mountains. So, things are actually very, very simple. If we are not able to understand the simplicity, then probably we don't understand that things are simple. So, because China situation is here and now, before talking about China, when we see a bodybuilder, the body of a bodybuilder, we see the end result of the bodybuilder, but there is a process which has gone, day 1 he has gone and, maybe 5 kg weight. From there, it goes to 150 kgs of weight. It's a process. Exactly same process has happened with China, and prior to China, 16th century Britain, 17th century France, 18th century Prussia, 19th century America, 20th century Japan, Germany, Korea, Taiwan, and now China. Exactly same. There is no difference at all. So what you do when you are at the beginning stage of your journey, because your per capita income is low, the moment you shift the manufacturing, that itself is innovation. What is innovation? Is that your cost becomes low as compared to the other country. So in a way you are innovative. That's the beginning. You are, taking 5 kgs of load on your muscle.
No, what did China do to transit from a mass assembler to the most innovative company?
So that's what. The first they started to lift 5 kgs of weight, from being mass assembler. And that itself, as I told you, was innovation, because the cost, the per capita income was equal to India at that time. 1978, when Deng Xiaoping came, it was less than India, the per capita income. So that was the first step. Then the second step, step by step, they built a very large ecosystem, and then from the mass assembler to design to R&D to build their own companies, they stopped any software company, they stopped Google, Facebook, whatever. They made sure that their captive market is utilized to build their own companies.
So the original techno-nationalism country.
Exactly same has been followed by the US also. Alexander Hamilton, the first Treasury Secretary, did exactly the same thing. So we somehow don't know the history, therefore, because it's very near, so we believe that they have done something differently. No. The process has always been same. It is that we have not recognized this process and somehow followed the narratives of World Bank and Washington Consensus and IMF and and the foreign trained Indian economists. They have guided us in the wrong way, and those people who have studied economics but not asked these questions why, they have done the all wrong policy making.
So Rahul, today you have this same question, but you are having some very near experiences working with a ODM which is globally respected. So are these people different? Do they have superior intellect? Are they Suryavanshis and we are Chandravanshis? Is there a difference? I mean, is my design guy inferior to the Chinese design guy? Why doesn't our ecosystem not work? What do you see in them which we don't have?
No,
it's not a nice man question, so.
No, that's fine, but I will move from the Suryavanshis and Chandravanshis, because see, I will just dovetail into what Hariji was saying, that how the countries have been built. So we have to see,
because we grew up believing that the East is very short yellow men with very low intellect, and suddenly they are the global leaders in innovation.
Yeah, but you have to see that all countries, as of respectively, they have their own strengths. For example, if you're talking about the Chinese, they are not that great in design. There is no design innovation which has come in terms of, if you see for example, on any IDs and all, it is not coming from that country. Okay. So, but I will come back, and again what Hariji was saying, that how countries have been built up. For example, in our country, we have been great in doing services business, whereas they have focused more on supply chain, and they realized at that time that they have to protect and build their local companies, because only then you can make a nation. In terms of the protection what they do not have any Twitter there, they don't have any Google, no Facebook, nothing. So hence all of them were forced to do innovation. Ke boss, do something now, or else we will be far behind. And the company, the country, responded. And also the government policies were like, in terms of, they realized semiconductor, you said how many companies, 322?
3,200.
They started working 20 years back on that.
That's right, yes.
Right? So, exactly the same question, if, in China, if this debate was happening, they would ask you, hey, what India has done differently? They have been so great in software services. Because the infrastructure we have built like that.
Okay, my next question is exactly on this software versus hardware. Dhoko has become a parliamentary word, so I'll use that word. If somebody gets offended, please pardon me. So I was in Bangalore club at a lunch with two of the doyens of the software industry. So I had this very admiring look on my face so I said, what have you done that we guys did? कहता यार एक था सिर्फ, हमारे पास कोई custom officer नहीं था हमें ठोकने के लिए. So my question is what keeps you awake at night? What are your main concerns about ease of doing business for building Indian champions? Are we near optimization, or we are at the bottom? Yeah, Hariji, you go ahead.
So let me just
And before I come to the audience, I'll have one more round of questions.
Suryavanshi
on the
versus
brand.
Chandravanshi is very, very important for us to understand, and then I'll come to this ease of doing business. For a minute, I'll just. So, if you see, our people are leading almost all the US tech companies. So, if our people are leading the tech companies, it clearly denotes that it is not about the people of China versus people of India. And if at all there is some edge, then it is with the people of India. Because what we have, and what I call them PhDs, the poor, hungry and desirous people. It's huge edge we have. When on more specific terms, I have studied history, and in that study, what revealed to me was that when we see some discipline or a culture in a particular country, they exactly had the same culture, what is there in India. They never used to come on time, etc., etc., etc. There is a process with which the leaders of those countries have built the countries. And therefore, when we see them now, we forget what has happened with them in the past. So there is no doubt in my mind that it is all a process. And when you see every single country being built, Korea was built by Park Chung-hee, and then Japan by the Meaty, and there were leaders in Japan, Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore and Deng Xiaoping of China.
Finish in about 5
There is just a process of building the country, and when once you realize that you are going to do something phenomenal with your country in terms of economy. So government is the biggest business of a country. Once the government realizes that we have to do it, and today in our country, I think entrepreneurs must also take this responsibility to work together with the government to make it happen for India. And whether it is the same ease of doing business, etc., etc., we are where we are is a chicken and egg story. Because we are such a low level, our ease of doing business is also at a low level. The moment, step by step, if we can eye that we are going to lead the world and build a $25 trillion economy in the next 20-25 years, and build 125 Fortune 500 companies from India, and have a very large ecosystem of very large and MSMEs also, and the farmers are also getting, huge value for their crop, etc. We have to build an India where ease of doing business is not even talked. And I think it's a process. First we'll eye there, and then everything will happen. Thank you.
And may I request you, sir, to kindly present the mementos to the speakers. No. Okay. Thank you to Mr. Rahul Sharma. Thank you. I think it's been a very insightful session covering China, covering US, of course India, becoming techno-nationalist and sharing that roadmap for building a more resilient and thriving electronics industry. Thank you to Mr. Hariom Rai. As Pankaj mentioned, the philosopher of India. Thank you. Thank you to Mr. Josh. Thank you to Mr. Pankaj Aggarwal. And may I request Ms. Chandrika Behel, the Managing Director of the Exhibitions India Group, to kindly present the memento, thanking Mr. Pankaj Mohindroo, the Chairman, ICEA. I take my moderator, yes, facilitator, and elevator, I would like to say.